Hello, everyone. Hope you're well. I've been asked to give a testimony by the church, so I'll try my best not to bore you too much, and um, yeah, just give you my experience and my encounter with God, and yeah, just hopefully try and encourage some people while we're going through this. What's a difficult time, I suppose, for a lot of people, and I'm actually one of the lucky ones at the moment where I continue to keep working. So I got a bit of normality other than my self-made haircut now because there's no hairdressers opening anymore. And yeah, I just been asked to spend a bit of time and just give you a very brief introduction to myself and just share a bit of my testimony on how I came to know and love Jesus. And just to start with a bit of a background for those who don't know, most of you will know me from the church. I'm not really sure how much people do know of me, and how much of my story that they've heard or seen, and many of you will have been a part of it on the day that I actually gave my life to the Lord. But I just want to backtrack just very briefly, just to give you a bit of a scope, I suppose, on my life before I was a Christian. So I was born and raised in Maesteg, which is only about 35 miles away from here. And born and raised in Maesteg, no family members were Christians or went to a church or anything like that. The only bits of church and Christians I had were school assemblies and when I used to sing in school. And so I grew up most of my life not really knowing God or not knowing Jesus. So yeah, so I had a difficult upbringing, if you want to call it that. My mother, she always tried her best for me. She always provided for me. But my mum and dad split up when I was young, when I was 5 or 6 year old, and I spent pretty much the next 10 years of my life really not really knowing my father, and that was a big thing for me because obviously I love my dad, and um, yeah, it was difficult growing up in school and stuff, and not having a dad and what have you, and I know there are a lot of other people who have to deal with that, or not having a mum and stuff. So I understand that and totally respect that. But for me, it was I had a good upbringing. I was always happy as a child until I got into secondary school, and yeah, I was bullied a lot. Um, bullied a lot, um, and yeah, it was a big part of my life. And I spent a lot of time not going to school and things like that, mitching. Or I'm not sure what they call it down here, but mitching is a my stake term anyway. Um, yeah, and just really just not not doing school, secondary school, if I'm honest. Didn't do my GCSEs or anything like that. I was too scared to go to school. And a lot of that was um, down to the fact that my mom's partner was into drugs and things like that. And yeah, my mother had a lot of physical abuse from him, and I spent a lot of time cleaning up after that as a young child and watching my two younger brother and sister. So I learned to grow up quite quickly. At least I seem to think so anyway. I'd probably disagree, but yeah, so it came a time where I was actually really, really down, really depressed, and quite sad and alone, and um, got to the point that I actually thought, do I really want to be here anymore? And it's a big point in my life where um, I remember being sat in my state bus station, just thinking, why am I here? Like, why do I want to be here? And it was just that moment that I always look back on now and just realised that there was a bus there for in the station to Swansea. Now, I didn't have any money on me, but me being me at that time, I jumped on a bus without anyone seeing. And I made my way down to Swansea, and then I got down to Llanelli where my father lived. And just one of them moments where it was just like, when I look back, I genuinely believe that was a moment that God was speaking to me and just saying, you need to go to Llanelli. So anyway, I got to Llanelli. I surprised my father, I must admit. And he wasn't going to see me out on the door or on the streets. So I ended up staying with my father when I was 16, and 20 odd years later on, I'm still in Llanelli, married, and got a family, and big thing. So, and just to not go through everything. So whilst growing up then from the age of 16 in Llanelli, obviously jobs here and there, and I had a son with another person, and that didn't work out. And then I met obviously my wife Emma, and so we've been together now for 20 years nearly, and it's been a journey. It's been a journey, and we've been through a lot. Emma lost her mother, and things starting to go a little downhill with our marriage, and we just weren't the same. And Emma then started coming to Ty Gwyn. Would have been about 8 or 9 years ago now, and she started coming to Ty Gwyn, and over a period of 2 to 3 years, she, I could see there was a lot of improvement. She seemed a lot happier in herself, and she was listening to all these programs and songs, and I genuinely thought, this girl's going mental. But it's funny how God works. It is funny how God works, because although the programs are on and the music was on, I actually found myself listening to it and actually quite intrigued and interested in it myself, because I've never actually thought about God or how we were created or anything like that. So the seeds were being planted, and over time Emma eventually plucked up the courage and asked me to come to church with her, and I thought, yeah, okay, I'll give it a go. I'll come, I'll have a listen. And when I got there, it was without causing offence to anyone, it was one of these. It was a day where there was people asking for money, and it wasn't actually the church asking for money. It was for a good cause. It was for Action Overseas or something like that, from what I can remember. And I thought, this is typical. I've come to church, and this is exactly what I thought it would be about. It was about people, asking for money, and the church being a rich society and everything like that. And I walked out and I said to Emma, that's exactly what I thought it would be. You'll never see me in church again. It was exactly what I expected. So now, knowing what everything went on, Emma was really gutted, and and I know it was probably the worst day she could have taken me to church, because church is nothing like that. Now I know. So anyway, over a period of time, Emma continued coming to church with her sister and Sarah Herbert and Julie Juggs, or I don't know what's her name, but Julie Juggs I know her as anyway. And it was, she was happy, and I was happy, because I got to watch Match of the Day in peace on a Sunday morning without anyone moaning at me or watching sport, because Emma hates sport. And we just continued journeying and going forward, and it came to Christmas, and Em again plucked up the courage and asked me to go to church and to do a Christmas concert. And I thought that'd actually be quite nice. It'd be nice to sing some songs, and And I went there and it was lovely. It felt nice. It was totally different to the last time I went to church, and it made me think, okay, maybe it's not all what I thought and imagined it would be. But yeah, so we keep journeying. Emma keeps being happy, and she's starting to go into conferences by this time now and everything like that. And I thought, well, if it's making her happy, it's a good thing. So we get to Easter, and Emma again plucks up the courage and asks me to come along, and I said, yeah, okay, I'll come along. She said Ivan's brother was speaking, and there was a baptism service. Now I didn't know anything about what that was, so again I rocked up, and I gave it a go, and it was great. It felt right. It just felt it felt like I belonged there, and it's a weird thing to say, isn't it? But I genuinely did feel at that time I belonged there. So the service went on, and there were people who got baptized. I remember young Jack Parker being baptized, and Damien, and there were others there, but they were the two that I do remember. And it just, I thought, yeah, that looks good, and I think at that point, was the very first time that I genuinely, hand on heart, had ever reached out to God. And it wasn't like a loud conversation, but it was a battle in the mind, and it was a conversation that I was having with God, and just basically, this feels right, but if you're real, you need to let this happen, and let me be baptized. Just prove to me that you're listening to me. And some people might not believe it, but it is the honest truth. And within 10 seconds of me saying that, Ivan is saying to someone else in the room that he wants to be saved, or that he felt something within his spirit that that there was someone else here. And it was hard. It was hard when they asked that person to come forward, because I didn't know anyone in the church other than Emma and Sarah. And I stepped forward. And yeah, never looked back. I stepped forward. And next thing you know, I had a pair of jeans on and actually a woolly jumper. I didn't have anything to get baptized in, and I got dunked in a woolly jumper. And it's quite funny actually, because I always say to Emma that the only thing I really remember about that day is Gail Rankin trying to pull my watch and my clothes off me and stuff, almost pushing me in, and it's quite funny actually, because that is one of the main things and the funny things I remember about that day. And yeah, and from that day I became a Christian, and from that day that, I look back over my life, and I actually know that God was prompting me, even in my younger years, from the times that, I went to Sunday school, albeit just for a selection box on Christmas and an Easter egg on Easter. I went to Sunday school, and, I just thank the Lord for them ladies who spent their time to do that, because seeds have been planted, but 20 or 30 years later, that seed has finally sprouted, and that seed is in the heart of me now, and it will never be lost. And I'm a Christian, and I love Jesus, and I just want to grow and grow. And I just encourage any of you guys really at the moment who are either struggling or even don't even know the Lord yet, you have to reach out to him. He's always there for you, but he's not going to force himself on you. It's your choice. But one thing I do know is if you truly mean it, and you truly in your heart want to know him, he will reach out and find a way and show you how to answer and respond. And yeah, so and that's my testimony. Obviously that was 4.5 years ago, or 4 years ago now. And I'm a Christian, and I I continue to go to church, and I just thank you for the people in the church and the family now that I have in the church. And there was one phrase that obviously Fred gave me at the time that I got baptized, and it's my salvation and my honour depend on God. He is my mighty rock and my refuge, and that's Psalm 62:7, and that's a psalm that I live by now, and I encourage anyone that he is anyone's rock, and he can be anyone's refuge, but it's down to you to seek it. And when you seek it, there's no going back. He won't let go, and that's what I live my life by now, and just knowing that God's got my back, and just knowing, actually, I suppose, that yes, things will go wrong as a Christian, and your life's not going to be perfect, but that's what Jesus is. That's what he's there for. He's the glue in the cracks. And yeah, I'm just going to stop babbling on now, but I hope this has encouraged you guys. I hope that there's something there for you. And again, if anyone wants to reach out to me, I'll happily speak to anyone. All right, all the best, guys, and stay safe during this time, and hopefully soon we'll be able to catch up and even have a coach in church. All right, all the best, guys. Take care. Love you all. Ta-ra.
Ty Gwyn, it is great to be with you virtually from my lounge room in Liverpool. However, I'm very hesitant to speak to you because the last time I spoke in Ty Gwyn, the church was shut down the next day. So don't know how I am when it comes to luck. But I am missing being with you in person. Just this weekend gone, I would have been with you in person. So it is a bit of a bummer. I just want to share with you a word I have for this time and this season that's been helping us navigate and lead in Liverpool. It's about being the church. It's about drawing near, and it's about the love that's spoken with action and sacrifice. When we love like this, as Christians and as the church, this is how we become known. We become known for our love. The world today needs us to be people that love with action and sacrifice. Now more than ever, the world needs the church. But it doesn't need the church to be a service. It doesn't need the church to be a building. It needs the church to be what it was always meant to be, the body of Christ. It needs the church to be the church. Be the church in your household. Be the church with your family. Be the church with people who are close to you. Be the church in your neighborhood, and be the church in every opportunity you have right now. I felt that God gave me a word at the beginning of all of this for my congregation, and I want to share it with you today. And it's directly from Hebrews 10:19-25. It's a call to persevere in faith. It says, "Therefore, brothers and sisters, since we have confidence to enter the most holy place by the blood of Jesus, by new and living way opened for us through the curtain that is his body, and since we have a great priest over the house of God, let us draw near to God with a sincere heart, and with a full assurance of faith that brings, having our hearts sprinkled and cleansed from us a guilty conscience, and having our bodies washed with pure water. Let us hold unswervingly to hope, for we have been by he who promised is faithful. And let us consider how we may spur one another on towards love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching." I get that passage was given to me. I feel the word for us in this time is one, to let us draw near to God with a sincere heart, which full assurance that the faith we have should bring. Let us hold unswervingly to the hope of the kingdom and to the Savior that is at work. And let us consider how we would spur one another on in love and good deeds. But most importantly, let us not give up meeting together. So in whatever difficult, unnatural way we have to meet together, whether it's Zoom or online or shouting from our window to a window across the street, let us not give up on that. We cannot be isolated because the nature of God is community. But we must also encourage one another to be the church, to love the world horizontally, and to reach the neighborhood around us. And as I got that word, I couldn't help but think of this time in lockdown like a caterpillar going into a cocoon. And so I looked at the stages of a cocoon, and I've learned much more about a caterpillar than I ever would want to learn. But let me process it with you for a second. The first stage of a caterpillar becoming a butterfly is for the caterpillar to form its cocoon. It's going to be the thing that will protect it, that it will find itself safe and secure in through its transformation. That's the first stage. That's what most of us are coming out of now in lockdown. The first stage of lockdown is like building a cocoon. It's accepting the situation, it's grieving what we've lost, it's adjusting, but it's allowing ourselves to feel safe and secure in our new normal. That stage is coming to an end for many of us. The second stage of a cocoon is, what you need to understand is what a caterpillar needs to be a butterfly is within the caterpillar from birth. But it's the potential. It needs to be grown into those parts. And so what happens now that the caterpillar is in the cocoon is the caterpillar digests itself. It produces these enzymes that dissolve the tissue away so that the cells required to be a butterfly is what's left. The second stage of lockdown is that we come face to face with ourselves. We've had more time with ourselves than we've ever had. We're now confronted with who we actually are and how we actually spend our time. The reality is, lockdown is not the hardest thing we're going to deal with in the next 18 months. Whatever the world looks like after lockdown is going to be the hardest. The world's not going to be the same. The economy's not going to be the same. There's going to be a whole lot of unaddressed issues, mental health issues, hurt, lots to digest after this experience. The disparity of wealth and class and society is going to be more obvious than it ever has. There is going to be an agitated society. Lockdown is going to feel like a holiday in comparison. So we need to ask ourselves, do we want to emerge from lockdown the same as how we went in? Or do we want lockdown to be like a cocoon that allows us to emerge prepared for what it's going to look like? Because God will prepare his church, God will prepare his people, because his kingdom come, his will be done. And this world will need his kingdom, will need his church, will need his people prepared. So what we can do now, we're used to lockdown, is we can now waste our time trying to make ourselves feel good, because that's how we deal with what we don't like about ourselves. Maybe that's alcohol, maybe that's eating, maybe that's Netflix, whatever it is. If we're not intentional, we will give this time and we will give processing to unhealthy things that make ourselves feel better, but they don't transform us. So in this second stage, maybe it's time to digest ourselves. Maybe it's time to allow God to show us the things about ourselves that need to change, the habits that need to change. Maybe we need that somber look at how we spend our time or how we approach limitations. Maybe we need to come face to face with how we allowed ourselves to be inflicted and impacted by the epidemic of hurriness that was defining our life. This second stage of lockdown is a time where we trust God to really take the pruning clippers to us. We confront what needs to change and what needs to go. Because the point of difference in life is not what am I going to say yes to, it's what I'm going to say no to. Because that creates the space of what I'm going to say yes to. So there's no point talking about what we want to become if we can't talk about what we don't want to be anymore. And that's the second stage of lockdown. Like a caterpillar, we're digesting ourselves. The next stage of the caterpillar is those cells that were already within the caterpillar that will grow into the parts of the butterfly. They need to now rapidly multiply. And they do that from this protein goo that's been created from the digestion of the tissues that are no longer needed as the caterpillar. And so this stage for us now is a rapid multiplication of the things we want to become when this is over. Now we've digested ourselves. Now we've taken the painful process of cutting away the things we don't need to be anymore. Now in God, we can rapidly multiply the things that are important, that are going to help us be what we need to be moving forward. This is where we need to learn how to really draw nearer. This is where we need to learn how to hold on to that faith, to come closer with a sincere heart. And that's why it's important that we don't let go of meeting together. But that only happens after the digestion. And the third stage of the caterpillar and the cocoon is to emerge. But you don't emerge as a caterpillar, you emerge as a butterfly. My hope and prayer for all of you and other Christians around the world is we're not going to emerge from lockdown the same as we went in. We're going to emerge from lockdown prepared to be the church in a world that's going to need it. We're going to emerge from lockdown prepared to be disciples as we're called to be. To love God with all our heart, our mind, our soul, and to love others as we love ourselves.